Welcome to the DL. This is the show where we talk about everything in the truck and equipment repair industry. It's my job to help inform and educate you on ways to help your business. We talk with technicians, business owners, associations, industry experts, manufacturers, and even a few you wouldn't think traditionally apply to your business. Welcome to the DL. I am your host, Tyler Robertson, also the CEO and founder of Diesel Laptops. And today we're going to, again, talk about something a little out of the world of diesel diagnostics and repair. But I think it's an important thing for anyone listening or watching right now that has their own business, wants to grow their business. I can tell you with Diesel Laptops going from 0 employees to over 150, I didn't do it by myself. There's resources out there. There's people out there to help you. And your local agencies and local government might even have someone to help you. So I brought someone into the studio today that is local to us here in Richland County in South Carolina. So I'd like to introduce Kim Mann with the Richland County Economic Development. So Kim, welcome to the DL.
Thank you. Thank you, Tyler, and thanks for having us here. Thank you for having me here. So this is your very first podcast you've ever done? First time in the studio? You would thought I would have done one before, but never have.
Yeah, the new medium, the new marketing world out there.
Done lots of Zoom calls, but not a podcast.
You know, and let me say this too. I am really tired of doing Zoom conference calls after doing nothing but that the last couple. I miss going out and actually visiting. I never thought I'd say I miss going to travel and doing trade shows, but I miss it.
I totally do. It's just a different world when you're talking to someone through a computer versus in person. It really does.
It's really hard. And then everyone that has like more than 3 or 4 people on it, someone has a technical glitch or you can't see them or they're blurring out. It's almost comical at this point.
And I think in person, it's better to make build relationships than it is through the computer. I don't know. Yeah. I just think
Don't get me wrong. I enjoy us not spending 6 figures a month on travel and trade shows anymore. But, we'll probably walk that line now as a company. So let's just start the base here. What is an economic development department? Like what exactly do you guys do?
Well, so Richland County Economic Development Office, we're fairly new. We're actually one of the newer offices around the state. Before 2011, the economic development was actually done with one of our alliances. So the Economic Development Office, actually most people think of it as bringing companies in, wooing them to your county, making them want to exist here. And mostly when you think about economic development, you think of new companies. But the other piece of it is that we have companies that are already here that are expanding, are growing. So those are the 2 pieces, I guess, to the economic development office.
And you're not a state agency. You're more on the local level, funded by local taxpayer money.
Correct. There is a state agency that we are, the Department of Commerce, that we are a big partner of, and we do a lot of partnering with them on different levels. But we are Richland County specific, and we are funded by the county.
So you haven't been with them long, only a couple years, right?
Yeah, I've been here almost 3.5 years. Considering that our office is very new, it started out with just a director and a deputy director. And then 3.5 years ago, they decided to create my position, which is the manager of existing industry, which is fairly new. You do see those around the state, but we have found that not only do we want to concentrate on bringing new companies in, but we want to concentrate on the existing industry we have. Once they're here, we want to make sure they prosper, they grow, they have all the resources that they need, and we can be a good steward to them.
Well, we're going to get into that a little bit because of the whole COVID thing. I know you guys got a new partnership thing you're doing with the software engineering. Hopefully we can talk about that a little bit. With it being a new department, right? Is this something like is there departments like yours in most major counties out there across cities in the U.S. and that work in conjunction then?
Yes. And even in some of the smaller counties, they may not have as large. I mean, we have 5 people. That's not, our office is very small compared to Charleston and Greenville's. But they could even just have one person that does economic development. But the majority of the counties have them.
So let's talk about our hometown here, right? Richland County.
Yeah.
So first of all, that includes the city of Columbia.
Correct.
which we got our state capitol here.
Correct.
University of South Carolina, we have that here, right? A lot of Gamecock fans in the building, a lot of Tiger fans as well, right? But what else is here? I mean, people don't typically think of Columbia, South Carolina for manufacturing or technology or these other industries. I'm assuming health and medical is a big one as well.
Right. So most people think of us as the state capital, so we think of state government. But we actually have a very large manufacturing following here. We have 2 or 3 large industrial parks. And we also we're creating a brand new industrial park up in the Blythewood area right off 77 to hopefully attract more businesses. Could be technology, could be manufacturing. It just depends on what actually is looking in our area. We have just completed an IT study with a Deloitte consulting firm to find out how we can recruit more IT and more technology companies, as well as keeping more of our younger population, because USC, we have a lot of students that are graduating from that, but we found that a lot of them don't stay here in the area. They leave and go somewhere else, and we would love to keep that talent here.
Well, I mean, I came from the upstate of South Carolina, so up there you had BMW, which brought in a bunch of people, and then you had a lot of other big companies kind of following in. This whole like technology corridor, or whatever they call it up there. And then you got Charleston, which has the ports and a lot of trucking and everything going on down there, and it's a touristy area. And they're kind of here in the Midlands, kind of competing against both sides that's stuck in the middle.
But that's to our advantage as well, because we're actually in the center of the state. So we can take advantage of Greenville, what Greenville has to offer, as well as what Charleston, the port. We're right in the middle. We have 3 interstates that run through Columbia. We also have 3 rivers that run through Columbia. And really, Columbia is just a really neat town. We have a lot going on. There's a lot to do. I mean, you can, there's always some, not right now during COVID, but I'm going to back up with that. But there's always some kind of festival going on. There's always something for the families to do. And it's just a very family-friendly area, and the cost of living is very reasonable too.
So I grew up in northern Minnesota, and they had nothing like down here, right? So I grew up in northern Minnesota, kind of a similar thing. Everyone grew up in northern Minnesota, and they'd move down south to the Minneapolis Twin Cities area because they could make a job, make 20, 30 grand or more. So they have a hard time keeping people there. Great place to retire and hunt and fish. Right. Not a great place in your 20s and 30s. So they make it difficult. And, I had the chance when I quit my full-time job 5 years ago. I looked at my wife and I said, hey, we can go anywhere to do this thing at Diesel Laptops. We don't need to stay here. This is an internet-based business today. We can go wherever we want. And me and my wife both were like, we really love it here. Like, we love the community. We love how close we are to, if we want to go to a big city, it's not far away. The beach isn't far. The mountains aren't far.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, the beaches, I mean, you're right here centrally. So you can be in the mountains in a couple hours. You can be in the beach 2 to 3 hours, depending on where you want to go. I mean, so it really is. And we have access, even though we have a pretty good airport. We have Greenville Airport, but we're not far from the Charlotte Airport or the Atlanta Airport. So we just have a lot of things that...
So we're actually expanding and putting a second training center in Dallas. We need to kind of put one in every time zone. And one of the great things is there's a direct flight from Columbia to Dallas and back and forth.
And that makes it very easy.
Yeah. So there's little things like that really help our business here. So I was going through some of the reports, and some of the things kind of surprised me when I was going through some of the stuff on your website. So, for example, if you look at it, basically 22% of all employees, almost a fourth, right, are over the age of 55 in the Richland County, which means there's a lot, which we all know it's going along everywhere, right? So there's a huge opportunity for people to move up in their careers that's coming up. I saw there's a high population of 20 to 30-year-olds. I'm assuming that's because of the university system and school system. So how do we keep them here?
Right.
So, you emailed us, I think, last week, and you talked about a new program that's kind of coming out here to help keep the younger kids here in the area. Is it okay to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. And I don't know a lot. I mean, I'm just getting introduced to it as well when I introduced it to you last week. But it's Create Opportunity, which is a way to increase the software engineering population in this area. That is a high demand occupation, and as you've mentioned, it doesn't require a college degree. And one of the great things about it is that Ben Rex with Cyberwoven has been working with some other entities around the country, and they have come up with an assessment. And the assessment actually, anyone can take it. You could be 20, you could be 18 years old or 61 years old, and you could take the assessment, and it could tell you how successful you're going to be as a software engineer. And and so he said about 87% of the people that take the assessment that say that they're going to do end up being successful, which is an awesome rate. And how great is it to take something like that and then you're going into a program that you have the aptitude and the ability to do, and to be successful and get a great job in.
Yeah. So I was just talking to my VP of HR, Charlie, and the 3 areas we have the most need for employees, and we have open positions now, multiple positions open: software engineers, salespeople, and then we have diesel techs that we need in our call center. And not a single one of those require a college degree, but they're hard to find. And it's not just us. I'm assuming your manufacturing companies struggle to find qualified employees, and just the traditional blue collar skills have to be tough. How are they coping with that in other industries? Truck drivers, it's on your list, the number 2 opening in Richland County,
and I think
truck drivers.
I think that's around the state. Truck drivers is around the state. So, I think it all starts in the high schools. And being that I also work with existing industry, I work a lot with the school districts, 3 school districts in Richland County, two school districts.
I can't even keep track anymore.
It's
either.
2. It's actually 3 because we have Lexington, Richland, so it's 3. But I work very closely with the school districts because we need to be educating the parents as well as the students on some of these careers that don't require a college degree. That doesn't. Going to college is awesome, but that doesn't mean you have to have a college degree to be successful and make a great living and support yourself. So, there are a lot of kids that go to school that probably shouldn't go to school, spend a lot of money, come out of college with a hefty student loan.
6 figures.
Yes. Yeah. And they could have maybe been a software engineer and gone to the technical college and gotten some background, some 2-year degree, and they can be very successful. And some of that is even less than a 2-year degree. So
we just hired, every new employee in the company gets to come sit with me for 30 minutes, whether they like it or not, right? So I just had one this week, and she came down to sit with me, and I'm always like, oh, well, how did you find out about us? What happened? And she works in our IT department. She's one of our IT pros. She never even really used a computer. She wasn't the type of person that would have used a computer in high school and everything. So I'm like, well, how'd you get this job? And she goes, oh, well, one of my friends went to Midland Tech, who you also hired, and they have like a 6-month program they put you through, and then they literally help you find a job. And she goes, she absolutely did great and loved it. She goes, I think she was working like at a fast food place, right?
Right.
And she went through the program. She immediately got a job with us, and she doubled or tripled her salary in 6 months.
And college is not for everyone. My son just graduated with a machine tool technology degree from Midlands Tech, and he started out at Clemson. Didn't do real well. And that I'm not embarrassed by saying that. I'm saying, but he just didn't want to do the English and the math and all those programs. He wanted to actually work with his hands, and he has been on the honor roll the whole time he's been at Midlands Tech. So I just think that we can't put all these kids in a box and say that you have to have a college degree, because that's just not the way of the world right now.
I flunked out of college the first time around, right? So I flunked out of college. I wasn't mature enough. I didn't go to classes. I didn't study. I was on my own. I was having a great time. And 2 years later, I'm getting the boot and having to go work for dad at home, right? So, and I ended up going to night school to get my degree. But I look back on it now, I'm like, my degree really didn't help me get any job at all. Like, I didn't get that much value out of it besides a piece of paper. And there's such pressure on kids in high school, like, go get your 4-year degree, go to college. Right. And you're absolutely right. It's not for everybody. A good friend of mine, Tim Spurlock, he has a company called American Diesel Training Centers. There's a huge shortage of diesel techs. If you go on Indeed today, there's over 20,000 open jobs across the U.S. for diesel techs, and the real number is probably 2 or 3 times that size. And everyone tries to get the high school kids, but it's hard because they've been inundated by their parents, like, you need to go to college, you need to go to college. It's hard to convince them otherwise.
Well, and the schools are also graded on how many go to college, a 4-year. So that doesn't help anything, because the schools want the kids to go to a 4-year college because they get more their grades look higher.
Yep.
But now Richland 1, they do have a diesel mechanic program in the technology center. I don't know if you're aware of that.
Yeah, they've approached us, and I know up in Greenville, we know some of the guys up there.
Yeah.
So yeah, we work with them, and we have some like educational programs we're coming out. And truthfully, we give our tools away, and we give stuff to these colleges when they approach us, because I'm really more in it for the industry. Like, we got some major problems in this industry, and if companies like ours don't step up and provide resources and education those things,
that's awesome.
It's going to be a really ugly situation out there. And it already starting is to get that way on the diesel technician, and driver shortage, as we mentioned too, is a problem. It probably actually nationwide everywhere.
Oh yeah.
And again, those aren't minimum wage jobs.
Not
diesel
at all.
techs can make 6 figures a year and not have to go to school for 4 years and go $100,000 in debt to do it.
But I do think you have to get that stigma out of the way from parents. And I've worked with the technical colleges across the state, and I've worked with a lot of different state entities, and so luckily as a parent, I wasn't upset when my son wanted to go to machine tool technology. I'm like, you have a great opportunity here. You can make 6 figures coming out of school. Yeah. And, I don't really care that he doesn't have a 4-year college degree at this point.
I really feel like the financial crisis, the housing bubble, the educational debt crisis it's on the horizon. There's going to be something not good that happens there eventually.
And the better he did with his grades, the more scholarship money he got. Yeah. So we paid very little for him to go to school. Yeah. Very little.
Yeah.
So.
There's great paths out there. Let's bring it back a little bit to Richland County economic, right?
Sure.
So if a business owner, how do you help business owners? Or what do you do? Is it just like, hey, here's some market surveys, or
no?
What do you guys do to help them?
So I position myself. I'm not, when I talk to a company, as not selling anything. I don't get anything out of it except helping them succeed. Yeah. And I get the knowledge of knowing that I help them. And so when I talk to a company, I can help them with just about anything. We can help with tax incentives. Most people should know this, but Richland County has some of the highest taxes in the state. Yeah. So we can, if they're investing or in CapEx, or if they're investing in new employees, there are resources out there for tax incentives, and as well as job creation incentives. I can help them with workforce development stuff. I can help them with sometimes with their sewer water bill. Sometimes I've helped a company rename their road. So there's really not anything that I can't help them with. And I position myself as, a lot of times the hardest part is figuring out who the right person is to talk to. And I have resources with all kinds of partners and all kinds of agencies. And I don't mind finding out who that person is that they need to be talking to find out, what path they need to go down. The other thing is, I can help bring in entities if they want to talk to talk to a bunch of people at one time. There's just really not anything that I can't. And I have companies now. You were talking about the COVID, and you might be getting to this, but during the COVID, I've had a lot of companies reach out. Well, what are companies doing about this? And so as I'm talking to other companies, I can help share resources with what other companies are doing, and so that they make sure that they're protecting their employees and all that good stuff too.
Yeah. So let's talk about COVID, since you brought it up, right? Yeah. So, that threw everyone for a loop this year, right?
Oh,
right?
Definitely.
So, and I see emails from you all the time and putting different resources and doing together. So what are you hearing from business owners out there? Is it everyone just still kind of trying to work from home? Manufacturing, you can't really do that. So how are they being safe? Like how?
The manufacturers never missed a beat in Richland County. We had about 2 companies that actually furloughed some employees for about 2 weeks. And that was all. They were both automotive companies, and it had to do with they supply automotives. They're an automotive supplier, so they didn't have anywhere to ship their
they were shut down.
So it really didn't have anything to do with. They could have kept going. They just didn't have anywhere to ship their merchandise. The manufacturers, they have done a great job of adapting. I really can tell you that almost all companies have done a great job of adapting. Now they learn as they go, and every day, every week, sometimes it's new and something different. And what I've tried to do is make sure that I'm getting the most the newest and the most greatest thing out to the company so that they know about it, whether it was the payroll protection program when people were worried about how they were going to make payroll. And because there was so many things coming down the pipeline, you would not believe my inbox of all the resources that came down. But it also got to be repetitive. So I was trying to make sure that the companies were getting the newest and the greatest information, whether it was from the CDC, emergency management, or anything like that.
Yeah, so I mean, I can tell you my personal experience with COVID is, when you're a business owner, and I spent 5 years building this business, and it's incremental, right? It's not like it's just straight up, right? It's just build on top. And that biggest fear I always had was like, what if it goes to zero? But then you're like, oh, it can't go to zero. It took 5 years to go up slowly. It would go down slowly. And I mean, nobody saw what was going to happen with COVID, and all of a sudden our sales dropped by 35%.
Yeah.
And I'm sure a lot of other companies were in the same boat, like,
oh yeah,
where's the bottom of this thing? Because nobody knew. And I will say it was amazing to see how many resources you guys were. Hey, there's this webinar. Here's a presentation. Here's a video. Whatever it was, you guys were doing all kinds of stuff to help everyone.
And there, and some of it was resources for PPE.
Yep.
We gave out 500 infrared thermometers to companies for free, which was awesome. It was just great to do. Be able to that we were able to provide that. I didn't. FEMA did, but I'm saying I'm glad that they gave it to our area. Yeah. We got the most out of the whole state. We had 500, and I made sure that all 500 went to Richland County, just because I wanted to make sure that we're keeping the resources here for our companies.
Yeah. And it was tough getting PPE there for a while. Like, we couldn't get hand sanitizer, we couldn't get gloves, we couldn't get masks. China wasn't shipping. We were like, oh God, what are we going to do here? How do we do this? And like you said, some of our people we could send home, but some had to be here. And it was definitely a really, I think a lot of people, hopefully a lot of employees are out there and they really learned what their management's like.
Right.
Are they there to help me, or are they just here to, are we a number?
Well, and most of the time, what I've told manufacturers, as long as your employees feel like that you have their best interest at heart, most of them want to be there and want to continue working. And you just have to make sure that you're letting them know that you're doing everything possible to keep them safe. Yeah. I mean, and that's the best you can do day to day. That's the best
so, I mean,
you can do.
We're sitting recording this in August. This thing won't air for a little bit. But, I mean, our cases in South Carolina spiked, right? Like, they went through the roof all of a sudden. Yes. And it was funny. We shut down when they were like 10% of that, but they spiked and we stayed open and we kept opening more stuff. But now they've come down tremendously.
Oh, yeah. The last couple of weeks, it's been awesome. They're in a free fall. We're back to like May and June numbers now for cases, and they're still declining. So I don't, just props to everybody in South Carolina for doing all the right things and taking the right things and behavior changes and what needed to happen. And I know people there are going to be people that disagree with me, but I think it was in the best interest to open everything back up. People can't sit home, and we have to keep going. We have to keep going.
I'm in the same mindset. We needed to find that line between having an economy and a sense of being human versus being safe. And I said the whole time, a lot of what happened in the beginning made no sense. Let's go close down all the small business, but let's leave Walmart and Home Depot and Lowe's shoulder to shoulder. Like, what do we accomplish?
I mean, if you can go to Home Depot, you can go to a small business.
That was the way I was like, why didn't they just cut the capacity to 25% everywhere and just say wear masks and be
nothing
safe,
against
right?
Walmart, but that's the one place I still feel like I need to wear a mask.
My wife, she hadn't gone to a grocery store in months. She's like, I kind of miss it. I'm like, okay, you haven't been there. They got arrows now, and you got to walk. You got to, wear a mask.
Publix doesn't buy. I mean, I have no problem with them with the grocery store.
So she went to the store. I don't know if it was like Walmart or Target or whatever. She missed it. She came back and she's like, nope, don't miss that whatsoever. I'll just keep doing the home delivery stuff. It worked out well. So it's just crazy to see all the changes that are going to come out of this, and some not so good, but there are some really, really good things that come out of it as well.
I do think so as well. I do think so as well.
And so are a lot of the business you're talking to, are they talking about the whole school thing and how that's going to work and that? Is that coming up at all?
And that depends on the business. I know I can't remember if it was you that shared it with me or Charlie shared it with me, that you're employing a school teacher. And I've had a couple of large manufacturers reach out to me and say, hey, we know this is going to be an issue with our employees. Are they going to be able to come to work because they have kids at school? And so I've had some that have asked about tutoring, professional tutoring, and they're all just, I'm just sharing what I know and what I've heard other people doing. And it's really just sharing best practices with other companies.
Well, that's a great resource you offer to people. So is some of the stuff people have to pay you for, or is it all free? How does it work?
Nothing I do. I don't charge for anything.
Yeah.
I don't charge for anything. I'm paid by Richland County, and that's pretty much. I don't make anything off of it. Again, I really just enjoy helping people and helping companies and seeing them prosper and seeing them grow and making our community better. I mean, that's what it's all about.
So I think the takeaway from this is even if you're not in Richland County and you're in any state, any county, anywhere, and you're looking at doing any kind of expansion or even thinking about expanding,
correct.
Go find your local economic development group and just have a conversation. It doesn't cost anything. They want you to grow. They'll give you resources. They'll give you statistics. They'll help you do a variety of things on what you need to do.
Yes, and we have all kind of resources that we can do. We can pull all kind of data and wage data. We have all that kind of stuff at our fingertips. We have a researcher on staff, but if someone doesn't, they have access to those resources. And I think too is the thing that you need to know is that it doesn't cost anything to talk to your local government. It may but not be even something you want to do right then at that moment. But I think it makes sense to have the conversation beforehand versus the back end. Usually they can help more on the front end if they know about it than on the back end.
So did you ever see that reality show? I think it was on CNBC where they dropped a billionaire off in a random city with nothing but like $100 and a pickup truck.
I saw that.
So it's a pretty cool story. They take a billionaire and they drop him off in a city. And he says, I will make a business worth $1 million in the next 90 days. That's his challenge. They give him $100, a cell phone. He can't use any contacts. He can't use his real name. And he has a pickup truck full of gas. And he goes through the journey of building a business. And the first place he goes to was their local economic development council. And
that's cool.
Yeah, they had the resources there. They gave him market research. He's like, I think I'm doing a restaurant. I think I'm doing an online thing. Right. They helped him with all that. They gave him an office to use, and they had all kinds of resources there to help him get going.
And that brings up another marketing. We can help with marketing. We can help with press releases and getting your name out in the community too. So it's not just money issues, but we can help with recognition.
Well, and I really feel bad because I know you approached us a couple times and, we never did anything just because I was like, well, we were growing so fast. I didn't have financial people. I'm like, I just need a building like next week. I don't have time to fill out projections or reports.
But I haven't gone away.
You haven't gone away. And we do plan to probably hire, another 50 or 75 or So I'm sure we'll be talking to you more like, hey, we want to expand. Come help us.
I keep in good contact with Charlie. So because I want to make sure we stay on the radar. That you don't do something else and that we don't give you the resources to help you do that.
Yeah.
Because a company is more worried about their day-to-day bottom line and making sure their employees do everything and making your money. You don't need to be worried about the other things. Let us help you with that.
Well, I think a lot of us were like, man, we didn't have a strategic plan at the time. We just knew we needed more space. We didn't know how many people we needed. I think if we had a conversation today, like I just bought these 14 acres around us. We plan to throw up some buildings and add some more people. So we'll probably have a conversation then and be like, okay, can somebody help me out here somewhere?
And we will.
This is what we want to do.
Yes.
So,
and I think I was going to mention, I saw that your hole got filled in out front because, but Charlie reached out to me and said, who do we need to contact? And so I was able to connect him with, instead of him trying to call and figure out who.
It's hard to find the right people to talk to for things like that.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's why, I do tell them, let me help you with those type of things. So.
Well, awesome. Well, glad to have you here with us in the studio. Glad to learn more about what's available out there. And again, for any listeners, I've probably left a lot of money on the table by not engaging with resources such as this. So take note in that. If someone in Richland County here wants to get a hold of you, or maybe they're in another city and want to move here, or they got questions, how do they get a hold of you guys?
Probably the best way would be email. And my email is Mann, MANN, .Kim at richlandcountysc.gov. But that's probably the easiest way. And if you're trying to connect with someone, that's not in Richland County, I'm happy to also help try to connect them with whoever their right person is.
I'm guessing all you people know about the state and other states.
And I have counterparts in other counties that I'm happy to connect them with.
So hey, everyone's paying their taxes. Use what your tax money is paying for, right? Your resources are out there. So
that's right.
With that, Kim, very much thank you for coming in here to talk with us today. I really appreciate your time, and I make no bones about it. I seriously have left a lot of money on the table, and probably would have helped my business way more if I would have engaged earlier. But hindsight's always 20/20. Hopefully, you guys don't make the same mistake I did. So with that, thank you for watching. If you're on YouTube, if you're on the podcast, thank you for listening. We'll call this an episode, and remember, it's not diagnostics; it's diagnostics done right.